There were quite a few books that I read in the second half of 2024 that I never ended up filming reading wrap-ups for. So in today's video, my goal is to start working my way through some of those reads and start reviewing them. That being said, it has been quite a few months since I've read some of these, but I definitely wanted to still be able to talk about them and let you guys know what I thought about them. So let's go ahead and get right into the first book that I'm going to talk about, and that is From Below by Darcy Coates. I did finally start reading into Darcy Coates' backlist. I read quite a few books from her. So I rated this 4 out of 5 stars. From Below is about like divers who are going to make this documentary about this shipwreck. And I thought that that setting was so fascinating of a shipwreck, like deep sea diving and the scary like life or death stakes that comes with deep sea diving. Okay, at a certain point, I started looking up pictures of the Titanic, like the sunk Titanic, and looking at those pictures of the Titanic scared me so much. Like just imagining being down there, imagining being at the bottom of the ocean and it's like pitch black and it's all rusted and dirty and you have to be careful where you step. That was a big thing in this one. They had to be careful like movement because they didn't want to disrupt the silt that had settled, and if they did, they would have a silt out where they couldn't see anything, and that was super dangerous because that could take like hours and hours to settle and they won't be able to find their way out because they won't be able to see anything. So there was a lot of high stakes in this one from very early on that added this extra element of fear that I really enjoyed reading about. The reason why I rated this a 4 out of 5 star is because, well, my favorite parts was reading about like the setting being the scary thing, right? But at a certain point in the book, it does turn a bit like paranormal, a bit speculative, and once it turned into that realm, I found that I wasn't as creeped out. I don't know, it got a little bit too unbelievable for me, and so it wasn't that scary anymore. But I really loved like the first half of this was very, very good to me, and I still liked it overall. Like 4 out of 5, that's still a great rating. So I really enjoyed that one. The next book to talk about is Wilderness Reform by Matt Query and Harrison Query. This book is about a wilderness camp for troubled teens that is plagued by mysterious events and disappearances, taking survival and discipline to a frightening extreme. Yeah, so this one is set in the woods, which is another thing I really like in horror, is like set in the woods, or like the last one, anything with a really intriguing different setting. And this one is set at a wilderness camp. I ended up rating this book a 3 out of 5 stars. This started out at a very slow pace and it almost lost me. I was considering DNFing it early on because it was starting out so slow, but towards the middle it started to kick up, and then I really liked the ending, so that's why I rated it a 3 out of 5 star. The beginning was a bit dull, a lot of exposition, and I was having a difficult time getting into the writing style. It's told in third-person limited perspective, where the narrator is describing everything the characters are doing, and it read in like kind of a detached voice removed from the actual action. By 35% in, I said this is so slow and boring. Now they're in the forest camping and trapping animals. I feel like hardly anything has happened in the last almost 5 hours of listening. Okay, but by the middle is where it starts to get creepy. At 45% in is when it starts getting more creepy, intriguing, starts getting a lot more interesting as our main characters are like definitely triggered by what's going on, and they know that something bad is happening and they need to quickly find their way out of this situation, and they start scheming and planning, and it becomes very high stakes. At a certain point, I was completely engrossed. Overall, I feel like the second half made up for the glacier slow start, and I liked the tense atmosphere of the escape fight towards the end. So overall, I initially did have this one at a 4 star, and I could see should I raise it back up to a 4 star? I lowered it to a 3 at some point, but now I can see raising back up to a 4 because I liked it. I think because it was so slow is why I ended up lowering it to a 3. But overall, not a bad book. and I liked it. Okay, the next one to talk about is Shiver by Allie Reynolds. And I really wanted to read this one because I was on a little kick last year. I mean, in general, I like these sort of books, but I think last year I was reading quite a few of them in a row because I was trying to get out of a reading slump. And so this one is like a winter locked room thriller. So this follows a reunion weekend in the French Alps turns deadly when 5 friends discover that someone has deliberately stranded them at their remote mountaintop resort during a snowstorm. Yeah, so it takes place during a snowstorm, and I love like thrillers or horror that is set in the winter time. But however, as much as I love that aspect, I only ended up rating Shiver a 2 out of 5 stars. It didn't end up really working for me. It wasn't really what I wanted going into it. There was aspects of it that kind of got on my last nerve. So this one is like, it's following a reunion of old friends reuniting, and then all of these old buried secrets and like tensions between this group of friends start coming back to light. Usually in those type of books, from what I found, is that usually it's a lot of like petty drama between characters, like relationship drama, and sometimes, most of the times, I really don't like reading about that. That is not something that hugely interests me. Like characters arguing about I liked this guy, but I kind of also like this other guy, and there's like a love triangle between the 3 of us, and you're like trying to sabotage me, but we're also best friends. Yeah, so half of the book is told in flashback and half of it is told in the present at this reunion. And I really hated the flashback portions because that was the majority of this like petty drama that just was annoying to me. It's one of those thrillers where all the excitement comes from character drama. There was a minuscule amount of the deadly winter elements threatening the characters. It's like set during a snowstorm, but they're not hugely affected by it. Most of the tension was from soap opera levels of petty drama. So I rated that one 2 out of 5. It really wasn't for me. The next one to talk about is Bitter is the Heart by Mina Harding. And here is another one that I did not love. Okay, I rated this one a 2 out of 5 stars. Haunted by childhood abuse, a woman is forced to care for her cruel elderly mother in this electrifying horror novel exploring generational trauma. This is another one that I thought was very slow, read more like a character-driven contemporary drama than a horror. The themes of generational trauma are interesting, but it just took way too long to get there for me. I did not care about the chapters with like the love interest or her sister or her old marriage. I just wanted to read about the creepy parts with her dreams or her mother acting weird. I'm not connecting to this at all. The characters feel flat and detached. I feel like more should have happened by this point to make the reader feel suspicious of the mother character. That was a big thing for me because that was part of the synopsis. So I was expecting the mother character to be really like sinister. The mother character to me did not read suspicious, so I wanted more. I wanted this book to like amp it up a little bit and get there a little quicker, and it just didn't for me. So for me, that was only a 2 out of a 5 star. Okay, the next book to talk about is Hunted by Darcy Coates, another Darcy Coates book, and I really liked this one too. Okay, I said From Below might be my favorite Darcy Coates, but I think this one might be my favorite. This book is about our main character who goes hiking in the remote forest. 5 days later, her camera is discovered washed down river containing bizarre photos taken after her disappearance. So it's following hikers. This one girl goes hiking, goes off the trail, gets lost, and she's missing. And then her family and her friends go out and try to find her. I thought this one was fast-paced, creepy, tense, exactly what I was hoping for. This is a great getting picked off one by one story. Yeah, so that's what was happening, is our characters were getting like picked off one by one in this creepy woods. While this has been more of a missing persons thriller and less of a nature horror, I'm still finding myself becoming immersed. There's a very interesting cast of characters. Yeah, so it starts out more of a missing persons thriller because we see the main girl get lost and her family is like freaking out trying to find her. But it does become a nature horror at a certain point, and we do get a lot of scenes set in the woods that are very creepy and tense. I could even have rated this one 5 stars. I don't think there was anything that I didn't like about it. Maybe it just wasn't quite a 5-star for me. It was such a fast-paced read for me. Like a good Lost in the Wilderness audiobook, throw it on and I could read that like in a single day. The next book to talk about is Midnight on Beacon Street by Emily Ruth Verona, and I rated this one a 2 out of 5 star. A suspenseful and entertaining debut thriller and love letter to vintage horror movies in which a teenager must overcome her own anxiety to protect the 2 children she's babysitting when strangers come knocking at the door. I think it is a stretch to call this a love letter to vintage horror movies, because that makes it sound like it's going to be this really intense, descriptive, like imaginative. It wasn't a love letter to vintage horror movies. Like, what part of it? I didn't connect or feel immersed. Character driven without much tension, and nothing really happens until the last moment. Yeah, so this is another book we talked about earlier, where the whole book, like, nothing happens until the very, very end. And that is so boring to me. I need more than that. I need stuff happening along the way. Oh yeah, I remember it too, that this read like a young adult book, and I'm not sure if this is supposed to be young adult. It's not tagged as young adult, but to me it read like young adult. The main character I think is like 16 or 17. At this point, sometimes reading YA books can be difficult for me. It's a perspective that I don't hugely relate to, obviously, anymore. Yeah, okay, there was the emphasis on the main character's relationship with her boyfriend and like this peer pressure stuff between them, like peer pressuring her to do it with him or whatever it was. Those are themes that I don't want to read about, okay, that I'm not interested in. Like peer pressure between teenagers, I don't care. I'm past that stage of my life and I simply do not care. This book reminded me of the book called The Mary Shelley Club. I think the main character really loves horror movies, and so she talks about a few of them, like she mentions some of them. I don't even remember, it's been so long. And that reminded me though of The Mary Shelley Club, because that book, the main character also loves horror movies. By 80% in, I said, I feel like there hasn't been any tension or something involving a mystery where weird things are happening and we have to try to piece it together. I don't know what genre I would call this, but not horror thriller. It was a 2-star for me. I wanted a lot more from it. I did have high hopes for it and it just didn't meet my expectations. Oh, the next book to talk about, I'm so sad to talk about this because I had really high hopes for it. And it is So Thirsty by Rachel Harrison. I rated it a 2 out of 5 star, but I genuinely think I'm gonna lower it to a 1 star. Like, I want to lower it so bad right now. A woman must learn to take life by the throat after a night out leads to irrevocable changes. I really like Rachel Harrison. Cackle is one of my all-time favorite books. The Return, I absolutely loved. But everything else from Rachel Harrison, I have not loved. This book was hard for me to get through. It read more like a romantic comedy with intensely unlikable characters. At the very least, I can always appreciate a story centered around female friendship, which Rachel Harrison does so well. She always writes books, like every one of her books is about female friendship, which I love. I love that, and that's probably why I rated it a 2 instead of a 1, but I just lowered it to a 1 because that's not enough. I hated the female friendship in this one. The 2 main characters were so irritating to me. The audio narrator annoyed me so much. I absolutely could not stand the voice that they were using for the friend Naomi. The voice that she gave her was like this Valley Girl, like a Valley Girl voice. Like over the top, girly, preppy, like twang sort of thing. I can't explain it. Nothing triggers me quicker than reading about cheating, and this main character is in this fake marriage. Like, it's a real marriage, they're married, but it's fake because the husband is cheating on her and she knows that he's cheating on her and is cheating on her has many affairs, and she's pretending that he's not actively cheating on her while she goes on this birthday vacation with her best friend because she doesn't want to risk standing up for herself in case it ends up with her being alone. Like, she knows that he's cheating on her, but she also knows that if she doesn't acknowledge it, then he won't leave her. And these two characters have been together for 14 years. By 28% in, I said, I feel like I'm reading a rom-com with flirty, bantering dialogue between every character that's trying so hard to be cute, funny. The two main friends have the most annoying back and forth. And now this romance with this dude at the party, it's just reading so much like a contemporary romance / lit fic, and I'm bored, annoyed. Like, this isn't what I signed up for. That's not what I want to read. That's not what I like reading about. The main character, it makes no sense to me at all, her getting turned into a vampire. There is no way that these vampires would turn these random girls into vampires. Like, it's totally frivolous. There was no stakes, no good reasons. Wouldn't 100-year-old vampires be more choosy and careful about who they turn into vampires and why? 73%. The main character, Sloane, is so insanely insecure about her age that it's exhausting. Every other thought is about how old she is. 76%. The romance subplot is nearly unbearable to me. There are moments in the writing of profound thought. Also, creative and imaginative descriptions, like the salty brine taste of blood to the vampires. Okay, so maybe that's why I rated it 2 stars, because there was moments of really profound thought in the writing, which I can appreciate. I hope this doesn't come across as too mean, but this book did make me really angry reading it. The characters really frustrated me. For that reason, I had to lower my rating to a 1 star. So I'm sorry, Rachel Harrison. The next book to talk about is Appointment with Death by Agatha Christie. And it's Hercule Poirot number 19 in the series. I rated this a 4 out of 5 stars. And I really, really liked this Poirot book. I thought it was very nuanced. There's a mother character in here that has a lot of layers. And I really love Poirot's like deductions and the psychology that he uses in this one, and the dynamics between the characters was also really interesting to me. So I really liked this Poirot book. And the final book to talk about in this video is Monsters We Have Made by Lindsay Starck. This is a poignant and evocative novel that explores the bounds of familial love, the high stakes of parenthood, and the tenuous divide between fiction and reality. I rated this book a 3 out of 5 stars. It follows a family, so a mom and a dad, and then their daughter. And when that daughter was a young girl, her and her best friend ended up committing a crime. And in like, if you've heard of the Slender Man story, like the true story of the girls who try to kill their friend or whatever, over Slender Man, it's like that, okay? It's like this mythical creature that she read about or found out about that she thinks is real. I liked this one that had fairy tale vibes. I thought the writing was thoughtful and the characters were interesting, and this had a new perspective on motherhood and parenthood that I haven't often read. The girl, the daughter, is like a criminal. And she becomes a criminal at a very young age. And so that was a really interesting take on motherhood and parenthood, because we're mostly following her mom. And it was an interesting take on like motherhood, seeing this relationship with your child who has committed a crime and you have like no relationship with them and you don't understand them. I thought that was really interesting. There is a light mystery element, but mostly it's an examination of how much of a child is the reflection of their parents, the deceiving nature of stories, regret, and grief. Overall, I like this one. 3 stars. Once again, I think at 3 stars a pretty good rating. So that is all the books that I'm going to talk about in this video. I do have another set of books that I want to talk about in a future video. More books that I read in 2024 that I never filmed reading wrap-ups for that I hope to talk about at some point. If you have read any of the books I talked about in this video, let me know, what did you think of them? But other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.